Live from Death Ray Studios in the sunny West Valley of Phoenix, it's Late Night with the Davey. Guests on this week's show include author Anthony Brownlee, owner of Nightmare Toys, Nightmare KRISTY, and musical guest BRYAN MCPHERSON. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the only late night personality that isn't on the Epstein client list, your host, Davey Death Ray. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Death Ray here with another episode of Late Night with the Davey. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You know, if you're new to the show or new to the channel, this is a brand new live late night talk show, you know, kind of like Conan O'Brien or something like that. I don't know what the heck the kids are watching these days, one of the Jimmys or something like that. But yeah, we bring on creative types, whether or not they're, you know, content creators here on YouTube or, you know, maybe a musician, an author, filmmakers, all that kind of fun stuff. And we get to know them a bit. We pick their brain about, you know, what they create, and then also give them a platform to have some exposure for their work and what they do. So really appreciate you guys jumping in here live with us. It looks like we've got a handful of comments here. So let's hop on over and see who is in the chat. All right, we've got Raymond Malabar. Raymond says, hey, Davey, this one's going to be interesting. Don't really know the guests that well. Well, yeah, that's awesome, Raymond, because you're going to get to know each one of them and you're going to be able to check them out. You know, before we get going with our guests, just want to let you know that there are links in the description below so you can check each and every one of those folks out and, you know, support what they do. And then we've got Ashton Luck in the chat. What's happening, Ashton? Great to see you, man. You know, guaranteed to show up. I love that we've got a core group of people that are just showing up to every live stream. Guys, I appreciate it so much. It's amazing whether or not it's a Sunday weekend roundup or if it's movie date with Davey and Kate or a show like this. Even movie punks that I do with my buddy Foz Rotten once a month. You guys are amazing for showing up. Thank you so much. We've also got Mud Nelson. Gavin is in the chat, and Gavin is our lone patron over there on Patreon. Guys, if you want to join Gavin, I'm going to be putting together some stuff this week for the Patreon. So there's going to be behind the scenes. There's going to be reviews you can't get anywhere else. You know, you'll be able to request that I do reviews. Of course, everything that's pre-recorded that goes on the channel will hit the Patreon first. And yeah, we'll just continue to have it grow as the membership grows. And who else do we have here? We've got Cheesy Corn Pop. What's happening, Cheesy Corn Pop? Man, you just, that picture, that profile picture, every time I see you pop up in the chat somewhere, you get praise for it. And it's well-deserved, absolutely. We've also got Dynamite Tiger. What's happening, Dynamite? Great to see you. Saw you in the chat just a few minutes ago over on Born to Be Rad. Great to see you here. And yeah, Gavin, you are the lone wolf. So we're going to have to put together a little something special for you this weekend. Nothing dirty. Well, I don't know. I guess we'll see. We've got Ryan Olashow in the chat. What's happening, Ryan? Great to see you back again as well. And guys, yeah, before we really get rolling with our guest tonight, I wanted to show off, I'm sure you guys all saw it on Sunday, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't show off, you know, some of the gear here we have for Late Night with the Davey. So wanted to give you guys a look into what we got going here. Let's pop it on over. Boom. Check that out. Gosh, StreamYard is just so nifty, guys. Yeah, so if you head on over to, you know, the Spring Shop where you can, you know, purchase things for, you know, a bunch of items for movie punks, for Movie Date with Davey and Kate, and of course this show, Late Night with the Davey. The link is in the description below. I just wanted to kind of show you guys really quick. Until June 15th, there's an early bird code here that you can use for 10% off your order. And because I'm, come from that punk rock background, I knocked everything down in price anyways. Spring has their prices set to be able to make you a pretty okay amount of money on each item, but I went ahead and cut off like $2 or $3 off of each item because I'd rather have you guys, get to enjoy them and get to represent your favorite show from here on the channel than to have maybe one person buy something because the price is out of control. So just wanted to show off a couple items we have here. We've got that awesome black mug. I really love that mug. Get to see the logo there. I've got the Davey Death Ray logo there on the back as well. Most of the items have both logos on them. So there's like a pint glass here that you can see. I love this pint glass, how we're able to get the logo like filling up the entire length of the glass. I think that's pretty fun. Another cool item, these die cut stickers are pretty sweet too. I like how they look like they're like leaping off the page. I think that look is pretty cool. And then yeah, you've got some like premium hoodies. I made sure, $36.99 might seem a little steep, but it's a premium hoodie. There are other options, but I wanted to make sure that if you guys are spending your hard-earned dollars on the gear, that when it shows up, it's something you actually want to wear. It's comfortable. And, if you go out camping, you've got a cool little item to wear that everyone's going to be like, what the heck is Late Night with the Davey? Who is this person that puts the in front of their name? Who puts an article in front of their name? And of course, fanny packs. Do you like fanny packs? Check this out. Look at that color. Boom. How about that? And how about that one? And how about a little pink for you? Really fun stuff. Yeah, go ahead and check out the link in the description below if you want to check that out. And I'm going to hop on over here and make sure that I'm not losing you guys here in the chat. Everyone's saying what's up to each other. That's awesome. All the cool kids are on the YouTube tonight, Dynamite. And yeah, when I conceived the show, I was like, well, do I go on live at 10 p.m. Eastern, or do I go live at like 11 p.m.? And the consensus was 10 p.m. was late enough. And it kind of works out. You can hide your weed in there. It kind of works out that it's 10 p.m. because some of my guests are going to be on the East Coast, and, people have jobs. So it's really nice, not to have to like hold people or, make people stay up late if they want to appear on the show. It's going to be interesting to see how, we may have to do some pre-recorded segments on the show. I want the show by and large to be live, but there are people on the other side of the Atlantic that I'd really like to bring on the show, and they're about 8 hours ahead of where we're at here. So it's either I pre-record something with them and drop the segment in the show, or I ask Barry from Wolfman's Got Nards to like wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning so he can do my live show. So yeah, we'll just see how that all goes. And yeah, Gavin, you can hide your weed in there. You can hide your weed in the wine tumbler, I'm sure, as well. So yeah, let's see here. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone in the chat. Doesn't look like I'm missing anyone here. And yeah, just waiting to see if our first guest is going to pop up here in the studio. Want to make sure I'm not missing, a text or a message that's like, hey, Davey, how do you figure this out? Oh, there he is. I saw him just pop up in there. All right. So yeah, guys, how is your week going so far? It's Wednesday, it's hump day. We're halfway through, actually more than halfway through. Do you guys have any plans for Memorial Day weekend? I know for a lot of people, it's like the first big camping weekend, barbecues, of course. So please drop in the chat. Let me know, what you're planning on doing this weekend. Maybe there's a movie that you want to check out this weekend as well. I know we're getting close to In a Violent Nature coming out that a lot of us horror fans are looking forward to. Strangers Chapter 1 came out last week and was lukewarm at best as far as the reception goes. So, hopefully the rest of the summer season here, we get a few great movies. I'm really looking forward to Longlegs. I don't know if you guys have been watching all of the marketing for that film, but it looks really interesting and mysterious. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. it's going to be tough to, I feel like sometimes what we build up in our head when there's something mysterious is almost better than the final product could ever be. I think people definitely had that with, Late Night with the Devil. And I think Abigail as well. Just that the preconceived notions and the buildup and the hype were so big that I saw people on both sides relatively let down. So, hopefully we get no more of that. I'm really looking forward to, Long Legs, of course. And then Maxine looks really good as well. And of course, Alien Romulus, holy cow, in Fetty Alvarez, I trust. So really looking forward to that one as well. And we've got Gory Tiger in the chat. What's happening, Gory? Welcome, welcome, welcome. And let's see here. Looks like everyone's kind of settling in. And I do see our first guest, author Anthony Brownlee, in the waiting room. I just want to make sure that because I don't see a video connection, so I just want to make sure everything is all good with Anthony before we hop in there. I don't see any messages, so we're just going to get rolling here. And guys, please welcome author Anthony Brownlee to the stage. Here we go. What's happening, Anthony? How are you doing, man?
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I see here, is your camera, is it about to turn on? Look, I saw it just go blank there. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right.
Look like it's trying to connect.
Oh, okay, it's still working on it. Yeah, I couldn't tell for a second. I checked my messages. I'm like, I just want to make sure there's no message from Anthony.
No, I left it off because I kind of came in. You're already talking. I was like, oh, should I wait or? So I was kind of like,
nope. Yeah, it's all good. The cool thing about StreamYard is it allows me to sort of like, bring somebody in or take them out. So I do see you there a little bit. It looks like the connection is still kind of working itself out there. Yeah, you can hear me okay, right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Hell yeah, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and being a guest. I think I started following you on socials and stuff back, maybe just a few weeks before H45, where we bumped into each other at that after party.
Yeah,
the first night of an amazing weekend. I guess we can kind of touch on that a little bit. What was your takeaway from H45, and are you planning on going to H50 as a result of that experience that you had out there?
I actually have been looking forward to it for that 5 years, because the first one I actually went to was H40. Me and my friends went out there. We went out there for just the Saturday, because it was our first time going to that one, and it was a few of us, so we're just like, all right, let's just kind of get a feel for this one. And at that point, it was pretty huge because the new movie was just coming out. Halloween 2018. So it was like really hyped up, and that convention, it just felt really, I don't know, you just felt really connected. It felt really, like, because I've met so many people that I had never met, in person, that I've been friends with online. Because that was, it wasn't my first time being in California, but that was, my first time going to a con in California. So
Gotcha.
It was just, it was a great experience. And so we were looking forward to doing H45, and unfortunately it wasn't like the same crew, but all of us are still looking forward to it. And just like H40, it was just fun. I love that venue. It's so big, and just being in Pasadena itself, California, just kind of makes the trip. We never really do the tours when we go out there, because we just usually rent a car, because you do the tours and there's just so many people, and you kind of want to do your own thing, do your own pictures, and if you're going to do some videos, but it's always a good time, especially when you're like really away from home, and it's just put you in a different mindset, just obviously a completely different atmosphere from me living in Ohio and going out to California. So
yeah, absolutely, it's got to be a total trip. And I think the really cool thing about that whole area in South Pasadena, there's so much movie history in such a small area. I mean, seriously, just within 5 minutes of that convention center, There's, I mean, the Michael Myers house. There's the houses from the first Nightmare on Elm Street. There's
Yes.
the diner that Sarah Connor worked at in the
Yeah,
original
right.
Terminator, which is basically across the street from the Rialto where they shot the opening of Scream 2. And it's
Right.
all within this. I don't know if everyone in the chat has been out to South Pasadena, but it really is like you get a scope for what movie magic is, because there are all these places are just right in the same area. Yet when you watch these films, it feels like they're taking place in entirely different universes. It's pretty incredible. And yeah, with H45, you know, that was my first con out there in California as well, and my first like exclusive, like, you know, horror con for just one franchise. Like, I'd been to a couple little cons out here in Phoenix, but man, it was incredible. Like you said, just getting to meet people that you only knew from the internet or YouTube.
Yeah.
And I don't know, did you get to bump into Malik Akkad during that whole after party thing?
I didn't really bump into him, but I did go to the panel on Sunday. Well, funny thing, when we went to the 2018 show, H40, I actually went to his table because he actually had a table at that one. And you know, he was doing like free picks and autographs. And so like,
Nice.
you know, I just, you know, got a pick from him, which was, you know, really cool. It was really cool just to hear him talk, you know, about his love of, you know, Halloween.
Yeah.
You know, most people know me as like the nightmare guy. You know, I love Nightmare on Elm Street,
Yes.
but I always tell people, like, you know, don't get it twisted. You know, yeah, I love Nightmare on Elm Street. It was my first horror movie, and you know, it's my favorite. But I'm a horror fan, you know, all around. So what I know about Nightmare, I know about Halloween, I know about Friday the 13th, you know, Child's Play, and you know, My Bloody Valentine, Hell Night, you know, and everything in between. So it's, you know, so it's just always cool, and this, you know, just see his love for the franchise and his passion, and you know how he had to take over after, you know, his father unfortunately, you know, was, you know, killed overseas. You know,
that was,
you know, kind of
crazy tragic.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because Mustafa was killed. It was there was like a terrorist bombing in a hotel, right?
Yeah, his daughter was getting married. I think his daughter passed away as well.
Oh, it's really sad.
I think Deborah Hill had just passed away just a few years before that. So it was kind of like, you know, pretty close, you know, kind of a double whammy of, you know, you know, legends that, you know, that we grew up, you know, knowing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of a gut punch to get that. And I'm glad you brought that up with Malik's love for the franchise, because I mean, I saw him at that after party. He was extremely friendly. I mean, like, I saw him walking up to groups of people and engaging the fans, like straight up just being a man of the people. I mean, obviously Michael Myers and the fans have been really good to him. But man, we're seeing this whole like wave of, you know, everything going on with Friday the 13th, and then who knows what's going on with A Nightmare on Elm Street as far as like the rights go, you know. So it's really, you know, when you look at somebody like Malik, you know, say what you want about, you know, everyone's got their opinions about the newer movies that came out, but it's like, man, Michael is like doing great. You know, that franchise is in awesome hands. And Malik is just, I feel like somebody that every other rights holder should look up to, as far as like, this is how you do it, you know, like, this is what your fans want. This is how to take care of them. So yeah, that's really, that's pretty cool to hear. And as far as, you know, you had mentioned that you are a big Nightmare on Elm Street guy, and you know, that whole franchise has been kind of, you know, since 2010, who knows really what's going on there. Is there something in like specifically that you would like to see as far as A Nightmare on Elm Street coming back to the studio?
Oh, definitely. Like, I've wanted that, you know, forever. You know, being a writer, like, before I really got my, you know, claws in, you know, writing to like, you know, getting into like my first few books, you know, I was like, well, let me kind of start with the story I know, just to kind of get my, you know, kind of writing hands wet, and, you know, to see if I can, you know, really, you know, deck out some stories. So, you know, I obviously chose A Nightmare on Elm Street because it's, you know, it's just my love, and it's the movie that made me want to be a writer. And, or actually, I always say it's the movie that woke up the writer in me, if it's, you know, a better way to say it. But What I've always wanted was to, have Nancy back. She is my favorite heroine of all time. To me, she's like the heroine blueprint. I know there's a lot of people that just kind of like, what are you? I mean, but for me, it's Nancy, because she was so radically different. She, like I said, she didn't fall down. She knew what was going on pretty early on, and whereas most horror films, like the main, hero or main girl always finds out what happens, about 20 minutes before the movie's going to end, and they just kind of happen to survive. Where Nancy pretty much set into motion to make sure that she survived, or at least had a plan to survive, and she actually went after the killer, which you don't, especially back then, you didn't see anything like that. They were like, how many girls did you see go after the killer? And she used her wits. She didn't really have anybody because nobody believed her, so it was just her.
She faces it head on.
And that's what I love. She faced. I mean, she goes down to that boiler room and she's like, "I'm here," like literally calling him out, like and I love that. Even as a 5-year-old, I knew how different that was. Even though it was my first horror movie, I'm just like, this young girl's going after this scary guy, like she's hunting him down, like I was really entranced, at that age, and so I've always wanted a movie for to have her come back, and to have Nancy as older. We got her as a teenager, we got her as a young woman, and we got her. I always say we still got her as an adult, because when you talk about New Nightmare, it's Heather. But I always say the moment that film starts, we have a mesh of Heather and Nancy, because I feel like if we saw that film the day, or we're in Heather's life the day before, we would have saw Heather Langenkamp. But as we pan in and we're in the movie, it's a mesh, because once that starts and that dream is over with and she wakes up, she's different, and and everybody around us kind of like, are you okay? You just it's very so to me, it's Nancy breaking through because Freddy's trying to break through, and she's has those same perceptions as Nancy, and where she's like very suspicious and very cautious, and very hyper aware of typical things that most people be like, oh, okay, it's probably nothing, and but with her, it's like, no, this could potentially be something. So I've always, and then obviously she has a few of Nancy's lines in the movie, so I've always felt like we got a mesh of Heather breaking out, or sorry, having Nancy like pretty much being within Heather trying to break out, and then in that final moment where she's like, I love you too, Daddy, where she accepts it fully.
Because isn't John Saxon starts calling her Nancy, and she, so there's the total flip, and even Robert is being affected by it, because he's like painting what he's seeing in his vision, so it's he keeps it a little like close to the vest.
He leaves. She's like, yeah, I'm coming to see you tomorrow, and then she calls him. It's like, yeah, we're out of town. It's like,
had to get away.
So it's just, I've always just wanted her back, and just to have that different version of Nancy, like fully being a grown woman with this kind of burden on her back. And to me, like, I feel like you could use every single movie, and not to let it be like, well, only part 1 happened, or wrecking the ending of number 3, because what Wes intentionally did with New Nightmare was the fact that Heather accepted to play Nancy one last time, resurrected her in the fictional world as Heather accepted it in the real world. So in my story that I wrote, she basically comes to life and is resurrected, and then which leads into a modern day sequel, which I feel like they could definitely do. And even if Robert doesn't come back, I've pretty much already surrendered the idea that he's talked about how he doesn't really want to play Freddy anymore, and I've accepted that, and because if we want more movies, we may not have Robert, and I know a lot of fans don't want to hear that, but I personally know that just because somebody else takes over and wears the hat and the glove, that doesn't take away what Robert did with all the movies that we love. So
it's just it's a fact of life that at some point an actor has to step away from a certain role. So it's one of those things where it's just like, it's nothing against Robert. He's still all the talent and everything is still there. We've got, even in the movies that are considered lesser movies within the franchise, like I don't think it's due to his performance, you know. So he was always really strong, and I just think it's, you know, I feel the same way where it's like, I'm ready for somebody to come in and take on that role. Hopefully they hire somebody that's, you know, in their mid to late 30s so we can get a good, you know, 10-year run with a handful of movies, as long as they, you know, write a good story that permits that. And especially, like, I think, you know, the key is finding an actor that's not a star. I think a lot of like when people fan cast, a lot of times everyone's like, oh, Bill Skarsgård should play Freddy. And I'm like, guys, he's in every movie. Like when you go, I think that was part of the problem with Jackie Earle Haley, is like, you have an Academy Award winning actor playing Freddy. And it's just sort of like, we need that suspension of disbelief. You need to go to the theater and sort of turn off your brain and think of the monster and not think of the actor playing the monster. So yeah, I think that's
that dropped the name Jared Bankins to me. Was that you?
Oh yeah, I love Jared Bankins. Yeah.
As soon as you told me about him, I went and like looked him up and like kind of looked at his stuff, and then, you know, found him on Instagram, and you know, just followed him, and he ended up following me back, and we've actually had like a lot of conversations.
Yeah, he is really
cool. He's really nice and really cool.
I got in touch with him this last weekend because somebody like shared something and he responded and they tagged me in like their response. And I was like, oh crap, like I need to, you know, share my video with them, because I don't know if everyone knows this in the chat, but I put together a fan cast video where I fan cast Jared Bankins, who was in the Twisted Metal TV series. He's in the first like 3 or 4 episodes. And there was something about like the character that he played where it just clicked. And I was like, wow, this is like, the kind of the joy this guy gets from the torture he puts his victims through is exactly the kind of like joy that Freddy gets. And he's got this slender look. So I'm like, man, he looks a little like, you know, something that could come out of a nightmare, like very angular. And yeah, so I shared my video with him and we started chatting, and yeah, really accessible, you know, gracious guy. And it was awesome because he was like, man, I've been having a bit of a rough patch. This like really lifts my spirits. And I'm just like, dude, you got to go get it. Like you are the guy for this role. So
ever since you told me about him, he's like been my #1 choice. Like from that point on, like I was like, okay, yeah, he definitely needs to come on and play Freddy for all the reasons you mentioned. Just that slender look, and he has those eyes that could like, you know, pierce right through you. And I feel like he could. And like he was around the age that Robert did when he started. So I feel like if you get an older actor, you're gonna run into the situation that we're in now, that, you know, they're getting older and they can't, you know, do much. And that's the main reason Robert doesn't want to. He's just, you know, he's like what, 76, 77 years old now.
Yeah, he's up there.
Yeah. So, you know, you don't want to run into that, you know, same issue. So he would be perfect. I mean, he could do, you know, obviously several movies, you know, if it came to that. So
and it's something, just like Robert, it's something that could like propel his career forward from there. Like, I'm glad that in a way, I'm glad he's not a name. I know he's been in some other things. I think he was in the first Venom movie, but it's one of those things where it's like, man, it's perfect for him to take on this role. And then, you know, then he's known as the next icon that played that character. Because we're really fortunate that we've only had like one person play Fred, or, you know, in the original canon, we only have that one Freddy. Like, of course, the remake is sort of its own thing. And not sure how you feel about the remake. I feel like it's pretty disappointing for the most part. I kind of either wanted them to straight up remake it or do their own thing, and they sort of like do a little bit of both, which sort of left me thinking like, why the hell did they do this? Like, I just, you know, but I do think there are a couple good performances there and all that. But you know, moving from you know, your relationship with A Nightmare on Elm Street, you know, you do create your own, you know, material. You're an author. You're currently working on your 10th book. Is that right?
Well, I'm working on my 11th, but I went back to book number 10 because I really had to deck that one out and, you know, do some more edits.
Hey, you know, it's all in the rewrite. You know, I come from a musician background, and it's like, sometimes it feels like that. You know, you lay something down that you're happy with, and then you're like, all right, now how do I like really fine tune this thing and turn it into something that's better than just, you know, what the idea was at its genesis.
Right.
And I noticed there's a little bit of a running theme with a few of your pieces of work where it's, you know, some leaving, somebody wanting to leave home, somebody wanting to
Mhm.
get out of that, you know, kind of same old rut and find an escape, but also like running into danger in that as well. So is there something that from your, do you pull something from your personal life with that? As far as like, I'm not sure if you grew up in Ohio and you've always lived there, or is there something from your personal life that you pull into your work like that?
Absolutely. I was born and raised in Ohio. And I mean, it's not a bad place to live. I mean, you know, it's very, you know, it's to me, Ohio's like the epitome of like, you know, Midwest, you know,
Hmm.
it's like the, you know, almost like the standards, just like that, you know, kind of like Americana, you know, type of
Yeah. Oh
place.
yeah.
But I just had like, you know, a hard time growing up. I was like severely bullied, and
Mm,
I had no friends like at all growing up, and I always just wanted to escape. That was always my
hmm.
biggest thing. Is like I just always wanted to escape, and you know, especially when you're younger, you're like, it's like, you know, you just want to be somebody else. You want to like, you know,
Hmm.
redefine yourself, or put yourself in somebody else's shoes. It's like the last person you want to be is you know, pretty much.
Mm.
And so a lot of and I actually didn't even realize that, um, until later on, how some of my books were very much, had that theme of, wanting to escape,
Hmm.
and like I said, it's because it's what I wanted to do growing up. And
Yeah.
once, once I got older, and I got to see, obviously more of the world, and you start to, you find yourself, when you're going to college, and start meeting new people, and you can really find yourself in that. um
Hmm.
so a lot of those themes, it was really hard to actually, like, actually put that in there, because it's especially my book Clandestine, because that's a horror story about bullying, and I put my own situations in
Mm.
that. I gave it to my main protagonist, and in a way it was kind of, you know trying to let all that go,
Yeah.
to kind of put it to rest. And just because I wrote Clandestine, I was about 23 or so when I wrote Clandestine. I just finally, was able to put it to rest, and, you know, put it down on paper, and, just kind of, forgive, and, just kind of all the stuff we
Yeah.
went through, and just kind of forgive, put it to rest. And, because there were like people in my life like, where did you come up with the idea for this? And, I, told them, even my mom, because my mom never knew I was bullied. She didn't know until I was 20 years old, till I was bullied.
Oh
So I
wow.
kept it, such a secret. And, it was just me and her, as I was growing up. Um,
Mm.
so I was kind of a latchkey kid a little bit, because I got home, before she did, because she worked, she worked a lot, basically trying to support us. And
Hmm.
so, I may have come home, have been able to kind of clean myself up, wipe my tears away, and just put on that face,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it can be really tough, you know, as a kid because you don't really understand why people are picking on you, you know, when you're getting bullied. And I think like
Right.
everybody, you know, everyone goes through that experience either on the receiving end or the delivering end, and maybe even both for some people. I think
Hmm.
like the older you get, you realize that maybe like the kids that were bullying, like there was somebody, you know, maybe one of their parents or an older sibling was making them feel some kind of way,
Yeah.
that that was the only way they could find that balance in their life. It's
Right.
definitely not an excuse, but it's like the more you get, you know, when you get older, you can just sort of rationalize that. But I mean, I totally understand, like you write what you know, and you know, writing can be like, it can be therapeutic, even if
Definitely. Yeah.
you know, I mean, of course, with something like that book, because you're writing it from your own experience, but even your other books that sort of touch on some of those themes, you know, it's one of those things, even if you don't really realize it, it's like
Hmm.
you're exercising your demons. And I'm curious to know, you know, being bullied, is that, you know, is that kind of what led you to finding an escape through horror, or did it just sort of happen? Like, who in your life introduced you to horror?
Actually, it was my aunt. She I would go over there a lot, with my cousins. There were three of them, and it was, one of me. I was an only child, and just one Saturday, I went over there, and I was trying to remember if it was raining and we couldn't go outside, or something was going on. We were inside because we were always outside, and she was like, "Oh, I got a movie, like, y'all might want to see. It's a good one." She said, "It's scary, like, kind of, because we were, kids." And lo and behold, it was A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I would, like I said, I was 5 at the time, and this was part one. And part one is no joke.
No
That's a
joke, no joke.
serious, real deal horror film. And
Yeah.
once I saw that, it just kind of like I was like immediately hooked. It like I said, it woke something up in me to where like that writer woke up, that horror fan woke up. Like everything about that film, it just drew me in, and it's like I wanted more. And
yeah,
I having no friends, growing up, like I try to get as much horror as I could. And luckily, growing up in the 90s, I got, we had USA Up All Night, and
oh yeah,
Monster Vision, which is my personal favorite. I love Monster Vision. And that's how I was able to find a lot of my 80s horror through those. And it was basically like a drug. It's like I needed more. Like, I just wanted to see more. And what I realized later was I was chasing that high. Like, there was one thing that I heard, this was years ago, I heard Will Smith say something where he said, when he used to, really make music, that he said in his mind, in the back of his mind, he was always chasing after Thriller, Michael Jackson's Thriller. And he said, so whenever I make my, my records, I always had that in the back of my mind. I'm kind of thinking, I was like, what does he mean by that? Like, he's chasing after that. Like for some reason, I didn't get it. And it was later on when I really got into my writing, and, cause I really love dark horror, where it's like, I mean, yeah, you can have like your fun, silly moments in it, but I like it to be like,
somewhat serious.
It's like the main, your main factor. And so I realized that I had always been chasing after Nightmare on Elm Street because that was my first high. That was like, I said, no movie had ever scared me like A Nightmare on Elm Street did. And it's like, that's what was always in the back of my mind every time I was writing my horror stories, or, going to the next horror movie, that was on TV. I was like, I wanted that same scare that Nightmare on Elm Street gave me.
Yeah. And do you feel like horror, I mean, I don't know if I feel this way just because I grew up also, really into punk rock. And, I also grew up in Southeast Alaska. So I just always kind of felt like an outsider in a few different ways. And, especially just with the hobbies that I have, made me kind of feel like that. Do you feel like there's something there, like an allure of horror? Because, I would imagine you grow up getting bullied. Maybe that puts you in a spot where you kind of feel like an outsider. Did you feel like horror was like, even though it's scary, was it like just like a safe place for you? And just sort of like, something you would go to as like a beacon for, I mean, it sounds crazy, but just like a peaceful kind of beacon.
Yeah, I absolutely know what you're talking about. It's like I would always tell, like my good friends that I have now, which we call each other the Fred heads. That horror was basically my best friend growing up because I didn't have any friends. So horror was what I related to. It was what I got lost in. It was how I spent my weekends. As a kid. Because I wasn't over somebody's house like having a sleepover and with all the things that kids do. I was just mostly always at home, and I was that basically turned me very introverted because it always seemed like every time I opened my mouth, it was just like almost getting slapped, because it's like nobody either wanted to talk to me or I was ignored, as a kid, not by, family or anything, but just, being in school and, then that kind of makes you very socially awkward, because it's like, if I say this, are they going to look at me weird? And, are they going to say, something, crazy or, what? And, but, being at home in my room watching horror, like you said, it felt like a safe place. It felt like I could almost be myself, but, it was like a hidden version of myself because nobody saw me.
I felt like I was always the kid that was like, well, I'm going to try to get my friends into this stuff. Say with punk rock, with horror, all that stuff. I made all my friends stay up and watch the first time we watched The Evil Dead together. We were so pumped that we went and rented Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, and we stayed up till like 3 or 4 in the morning watching all of it. You know, I was like, I like put my friends through that in high school. But yeah, I mean, horror. I was one of those little kids that was into, like, I wanted a My Buddy doll when I was a kid because I liked Chucky. So like I was like, you know, yeah, I was like, I need like people were like, why do you want that doll? And I'm like, because it's like Chucky. And they're like, and you like that? And I'm like, well, I know Chucky's not real. I just think it's like kind of cool.
Right.
You know, like I was more worried, like at that age, you know, I was born in 82. So like at that age, it was like 90 when I got my Buddy. I was more scared of the Exorcist 3 commercials on television than I was of Child's Play. So
you're right.
You know, it was like I don't know what it was. It's I've always felt like, you know, because people are like, wow, you're into horror. I just can't really do it. And I'm like, but the screen is safety. You know, it's like horror is like a roller coaster. You know, it's a pretty safe experience and a great way to get a thrill without actually being in danger.
Right.
I wanted to show here Gavin Mud Nelson here, but he said none of those bullies are making appearances on Late Night with the Davey, though. That's right. That's right, Gavin.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, you had mentioned Fred Heads. Now that's a documentary about you guys and how you all found each other and found that group of friends because of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, do you guys have like, is there like a yearly gathering of the Fred Heads, or do you guys try to get together every once in a while? Or
yeah, we try to definitely try to get together, like, you know, every once in a while, as opposed to, you know, being like an annual thing. It used to happen a lot more, you know, while we were filming the documentary, because we were just always together filming, and that was like 5 years of our lives. And but even before then, you know, we were always at cons and, you know, together, because a lot of us at that point, we lived a lot closer to each other. But then obviously, as you know, life goes on, you know, people get in relationships, people get married, and you know, so some of us, pretty much most of us all live in different states now, but you know, we're always, you know, we have our own chat, and you know, we, you know, video call, and you know, then, you know, we may reconvene at a con that, you know, either all of us or some of us are at, and you know, but whenever we do get together, it's never like, oh my gosh, it's been forever. It's like, you know, as soon as you get together, it's like, okay, I feel like I just saw you like yesterday. You know, it's never like, feels like it's been like a long time, which is, you know, what I love, because that's when, you know, it's really more like family than, you know, just like I mean, obviously we were friends, but you know, it's more than that. And you know, that's what Fred Heads was about. You know, it was about the love of something that brings people together. And you know, for us, it was this, you know, horror film. And, you know, like I said, most people are kind of weirded out by horror, don't understand horror, and obviously don't understand people who like horror. And but for us, it was our, you know, like, again, it was our safe place, it was our safe haven, it was where we felt the most connected. And each one of us, you know, in that certain part of our lives identified with that film, and it did something to us that, you know, led us, you know, to each other. And that, you know, we really wanted to bring that into focus, because most of the time when you would see these documentaries about, you know, the horror movies, it would be about, like, you know, the cast, the crew, like how the movie was made, or you might have the, you know, maybe same kind of, you know, maybe guys mostly who, you know, are discussing their opinions on the movie. But, you know, this was, you know, 4 different, you know, people who were, you know, obviously 4 different friends, or sorry, 5 different friends who, you know, share their experiences, and like how each of us got to the point to where we were, and why the film was so impactful for us. And we knew that there was more people like us out there, because, you know, every time, you know, especially now being on, you know, social media, and, you know, just meeting so many new people, and like people talk about like, oh, this is how I was when I was younger, and it's like, how like all these awesome people were out there that, you know, were never around me at all, like, or lived in different states. I say, you were the type of person I was looking for when I was, you know, 8, 9, 10 years old. And, you know, we probably would have been like, you know, childhood friends, you know, friends to this day. But, you know, everybody lived, you know, so far away. And it was up until I went to my first con in 2007, I felt like I was the biggest horror fan that ever, you know, crossed this earth. You know, that's what it felt like, because I was in my own bubble, because I just didn't, you know, I had never really met anybody who liked horror films like I did, or, you know, because it was basically my language, you know.
Yeah.
So
It's so wild to think, and I kind of felt that same way about, punk rock and horror, because where I grew up, it really was, I mean, it was like me and my 4 or 5 friends that listened to, 90s skate punk and stuff like that. So I felt like, when I ended up moving away from Alaska, I was like, all right, everyone's going to get to know like me. I'm the big, like the guy that knows what's up. But yeah, you realize, oh no, there's a whole world out there. And it's really cool to, you go to a horror convention or something like that. And it's like, to me, it sort of feels like church, it's like a really supportive group of people. Like you were saying, it's like you find commonality with something, and, the differences and all that kind of stuff that every one of us has just sort of go away. You don't really focus on the differences. You focus on that commonality. And I feel like I love too when there are friends of mine that I don't see for years in between. And yeah, you're just able to jump back in, and, you're not focused on any of the bullshit and all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool to find that sort of support system. And yeah, man, I'm really pumped for, for everything that you've got going on. To come from that tough spot of being bullied, to finding your place as a kid, and then being inspired, to write and to be a part of that community. Yeah, it was awesome getting to meet you at age 45. I can only, dude, age 50 is going to be crazy. I'm just going to like stay there for an entire week. I didn't want to leave. When I got home from Pasadena, I was depressed for like a whole week. It was, I just couldn't recover. I was like, oh man, I need more Michael Myers. I need, it was just too much fun.
Yeah, it's always, especially out there, because like I said, I've been out there like, a few times, and we always, one of my things, I always got to go see the Nightmare House always. And it's like, think you already saw that? I said, it doesn't matter. Like when I'm out there, like I have to get a new picture with it. It's just one of those things you have to do.
Yeah, it's great. It's a pilgrimage out there.
Yeah. So it's just a lot of fun out there. There's just so much. Like I said, coming from Ohio, we don't have like, nearly, like 10% of the stuff that they have out there. So it's
for sure. Yeah. It's amazing how that area around Hollywood, that there's so many different looks, even though you see palm trees in some of these movies and stuff in the background, like they really do have a classic kind of American look when you get tucked away into a neighborhood.
Especially Pasadena. Pasadena really looks like Ohio. Like every time I go to Pasadena, it feels like literally the Ohio of the West. Like
it's Anytown, USA.
Anytime, yeah, basically. It's like that's what it feels like. It just has that appeal. And so it's just cool. I mean, they've made so many different, films there, and I understand why,
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us, Anthony. I want everyone in the chat to know you can follow the link in the description below. Anthony's link tree is there. So with the link tree, you can find, all of his books on Amazon, and you got your socials on the link tree as well, right, Anthony? If they want to follow you there.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, man, for hopping on. I'd love to have you on, the next time you've got a book release or something that you're, I don't know if you do press when you do those releases, but it would be great to have you come on again to pitch something brand new when you have it. And yeah, really appreciate you phoning in here from all the way out in Ohio, showing some love there for the Buckeye State. And I see that Nightmare KRISTY was able to get the link to work, so that is awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Anthony. Really appreciate you, man. We're gonna say goodbye right now, but everyone, please check out those links in the description below. Go follow Anthony on all the socials. Really active on Insta and Twitter, and then that way you can kind of get in touch and get to know the guy behind the books, and become friends. Maybe you can become a Fred head, but you got to go out to Pasadena and hang out with everyone for age 50.
Right. All right. Exactly.
All right, Anthony, thank you so much, man. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Take care.
All right.
All right, everybody. Yeah, we're just going to jump right into Nightmare KRISTY. Sometimes I do a couple minutes in between, but with the technical difficulties, we're just going to go ahead and bring her on in. And then we've got a nice, fun little chat with BRYAN MCPHERSON. I'm super pumped to share BRYAN's music with you guys. So let's bring in Nightmare KRISTY. Hey, what's happening, KRISTY?
Not much. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy you're able to get everything to work. When I didn't see you jump up in the studio, I was like, man, maybe she needs a little assistance here.
Sorry.
It's quite all right.
Difficulty.
You know, this is what live is all about, right? You just make it through the bumps and the bruises and you find a way to make it work. I'm sure you know all about that, being you know, an independent business owner, that like you just got to roll with the punches. When stuff doesn't go as planned, you find a way to put it all together and make it happen. So really appreciate you sticking with us and finding your way to the studio here.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So KRISTY, you just got back from Texas Frightmare, right? I saw your stream earlier today.
Yes.
You had a whole bunch of really fun stuff to show off there. And Nightmare Toys was out there. You guys were out there as a vendor, is that right?
Yes. We've been vending Texas Frightmare for the past few years now, but I have been going since about 2018. So the first 2 years I just kind of went, and then after that we started vending.
Nice. And so I was reading up on you a little bit. I saw that, you know, Elvira kind of made you want to get involved in horror, you know, be like an icon of horror. Especially like for, you know, for women. And I saw you're really into Barbara Crampton, which, oh my gosh, that's like my biggest crush. I was a mess when I met her this last December. Yeah, an absolute wreck.
So gorgeous.
But was there like a certain moment when you were a kid that, like, you know, what was the movie or the horror experience that you had as a kid where you're like, not only do I kind of like this, but I think that this is something that's like speaking to me in a really special way?
Yeah. I tell everybody it is the Michael Jackson's Thriller video that got me started. That was the one thing that, I guess the first thing that I watched that was like kind of, you know, scary. And I liked the whole scary thing. But I was excited and scared all at the same time. And I was like, ooh, you know, I want to know more about that. The Making of Thriller came out. I got all into that. I watched it religiously. And then I think like really the first horror movie that I watched, I mean, it could have been other ones, I'm not sure, but in memory, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2.
All right.
So that got me into Freddy, and then I watched 1, and then of course 3 became my favorite, and I really got into Freddy when I was a kid. And so yeah, Michael Jackson, Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, well, you know, sometimes it takes like something a little, you know, on the safer side, right? It's like, I think there's kind of that introduction to horror. I mean, for me, you know, Jaws, when I saw Jaws as a kid, I was like, I love this movie. And that was probably like me dipping the toe into that and that whole realm. So yeah, I can totally understand that. And, you know, so as, you know, owning the shop, owning Nightmare Toys, I actually wanted to show off really quick here, if you don't mind. I was going to show off your website as we chit chat here. Let me see if I can navigate all this. This is the fun of the live show. So I just wanted to show you guys the website, because people can order from all over the country and patronize the store here. So, so yeah, guys, if you've not checked out Nightmare Toys, please check out the website. It's very simple. nightmaretoys.com. You can get all sorts of really great gear here. You know, you see the screen gear, the good guys for Chucky. Chucky's getting a second appearance here on Late Night with the Davey. And one of my favorite things to see in a shop is stuff like this, like a whole wall full of NECA action figures. I know you guys have the masks. I want to jump into the masks because that's like one of my favorite things to collect. I have like 6 Michael Myers masks. So yeah, folks, if you are looking for really great gear, you know, either you want to dress up for Halloween or you're just the kind of person that likes to cosplay for the heck of it, please check out nightmaretoys.com. Now you're just a little bit up the road from me in Las Vegas. I'm down in the Phoenix area, and you know, it's so crazy. I've been living here in this area for, gosh, about 4 or 5 years. Oh, there you are. And for whatever reason, I've not made it to Vegas in the whole entire time I've lived here. It's super embarrassing.
Oh, wow, you're gonna make the drive.
But my wife knows that it's like my dream to go up there and just bask in Nightmare Toys and just be in awe. I'd be like walking around looking at everything like, ah. Now, what made you want to just say, you know what, I'm going to open up this shop. I'm going to, because obviously it's gone from more than just being a store owner, right? I mean, I would say you're an icon within the community. You do like pinup modeling. You've been appearing in fan films and like independent films and all that kind of stuff. So you've kind of, crossed through a little bit of a window into a different part of that horror community. Is that something you always wanted to do? And, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about having people reach out to you and being like, oh my God, I love you?
I love that. Like, I love all, my friends and followers and everybody. And I love getting messages in the comments and all that. I know some people may not like messages and things. I love all that. I love my fans. I know it's still a little odd to me, to be honest with you. When I started Nightmare Toys, it was literally just to give me something to do. I was quitting another job, and my partner Philip, and he owns other businesses, so he's like the business guy with it, and I'm the horror fan. And he was like, "Well, you're not just gonna like sit around, so you need to do something. So let's just open a little store so you have a little something to do." And that's how the conversation kind of went. And I'm just like, okay, why not? And we did not think it would get to this point. Like, we didn't think we would go from Alabama to Las Vegas, grow into a bigger store. Then we had added on the Nightmare Cafe there for about 1.5 years, which we recently just closed. So we had the bar restaurant to go along with it for a little while. And we do signings at the store. So I didn't think that all that was going to happen. And it did. And I'm so grateful for it. And I'm a big collector too. And the one thing with me owning the store is I do have my business sense, but I'm also a fan and a collector just like everybody else. So
yeah,
I get it. I understand. So
yeah, so you're able to relate with your fan or your customers in such a different kind of way too, because you're like really in it to win it.
I mean, especially like with the collectibles and shipping and stuff. With me being a collector, I'm like, okay, we have to bubble wrap it like this, and we have to do this, and da 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 da. And everybody's like, no, we have to do this, and this is how it's gonna happen. This is how it's gonna be, With masks, I will tell you about masks. There were some other companies, and when I started, they were all putting their masks in bags. I noticed that everybody did not like that. Nobody likes bags. And so I'm the one that started putting masks in boxes, which irritated
because
people.
Well, you don't want it to. Yeah, it's if you put it in a bag, it's like it could get squished. I know from owning those Michael Myers masks, it's like once something gets bent one way, it's kind of like a hat. Like the last thing you want is for the bill to get all tweaked or whatever. And that's you have to have that extra level of care is what separates you. Absolutely. Yeah. And you guys have like a really fun crew. I don't know if anyone in the chat follows Nightmare Toys on on Instagram and all that, but you absolutely should. You guys have a lot of personality there with your employees, and then you guys have like dancers dress up in all sorts of different cosplay and do pretty much like little commercials. Now, is that something like the people that work in your shop, did you have to seek these people out? Did they naturally find you because they're just so into horror? And how difficult was it to find a bunch of people that had that kind of personality and that kind of love for the product?
It really is not that hard. So my manager, Brian, I met him at Texas Frightmare 2018, his wife, and now he works for me. I moved him from Ohio to Las Vegas. So
wow.
What can happen? So he's not my manager, and of course, all of my employees have been horror fans. I always have to ask everybody, "What is your favorite scary movie?" I have to know, because I like to see what people's answers are.
Sure, yeah.
And then the girls, they were, when we had our Nightmare Cafe, we had done shows on the weekend. We did brunch shows, and we did like kind of an adult show on Friday night in a way, because it was a lot of gore and stuff that was involved with it, and it was like a freak show type thing. So the girls that we have were part of that show, and so we just hired them to do our social media for Nightmare Toys and for the cafe at that time. So we're doing our social media for us as well. So they're part of the show. They're doing our social media. So that's how we found them. So they're fantastic. They already knew how to dance and be outgoing and do all that fun stuff and know how to do, the videos and TikTok and all that stuff. So yeah, so we hired them to do our social media.
And it's really engaging too, because they're always there's like usually a trivia question involved there or something. Like I see a lot of that. So now I do have to ask you though, because you ask your, potential employees what their favorite scary movie is. Do you have any that are like, are there any red flag horror movies that somebody would say and you'd be like, oh, I don't know about this one?
You don't want me to answer that.
Why? Are you going to say The Evil Dead?
No.
Okay.
Halloween.
Oh, well, yeah, because that's such an easy answer, right? It's almost like, do you even
everybody's answer? It's like everybody's answer. I want like something obscure. I had an employee who does not work for me anymore, but he told me his favorite movie was like Slumber Party Massacre, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah. I like
fun. Yeah,
mine is April Fool's.
I need to see that one. I've yet to see April Fool's Day. Now, is that the one that's not the one that has Biff from Back to the Future? Is that right? That is it. Okay. So I've got to see that, because I've seen a few reviews of it and I still don't even know if my head's wrapped around like how it all kind of culminates in the end. So I've really got to see it myself. When people ask like, what's your favorite? It's like, it's so tough not to say. Like for me, I'm at the point where I'm like, well, I think Halloween is like the best film out of all these slashers, but I would probably say something like The Evil Dead or like The Changeling or something like that. That's just a little more like something that kind of like got me on a different level, because I've been watching Halloween since I was like 10 years old. So it's sort of like old hat for me. However, I do really love it.
I like evil. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. And like for me, it was like The Evil Dead was one of those movies where it was like everything changed when I watched The Evil Dead. I started looking at the way that movies were made in a totally different way. It just kind of opened up my eyes to like, wow, horror doesn't just have to be like slashers and like haunted house movies. Like this whole demonic possession thing was just, it was like punk rock. Like the first time that I heard or saw Evil Dead was like the first time I ever listened to NoFX. It just like kind of blew my socks off. I had no idea that whole world existed. And it's just changed my life. What can I say? Oh yeah, I love all, and I like how like dirty and gritty it looks, and that it doesn't look like super slick. I don't know what it is. It's like listening to a garage band. You just kind of like, that's part of the charm, and it's part of the charm about horror too, is just sort of like, having fun with it all. When Anthony and I were just talking, I was saying that horror is like a roller coaster. I think the people that don't like horror, that's like one thing that I always try to say to them. It's like, well, it's not like I don't like real violence. I hate real violence. The fantasy of the horror is like the fun part, because it's safe. Like no one's getting hurt. So to a lot of people, I don't know if they can really understand that distinction. They're like, ooh, you like horror? And I'm like,
some people don't get it. My mom didn't get it. She said I was morbid.
and my parents were like the opposite. Like the first time I saw Halloween 2 on TV at like 9 years old, I was like, I want to dress up as that for Halloween. And my parents were like, all right. And took me to the store and got, there was no mask at that point in human history. So it was just paint your face white and wear black sweatpants and a black sweatshirt. And now you're Michael Myers. It was that simple.
I love it.
So let's see here. I've got a chat from Jamie Hart, says April Fool's Day is so good. I love Amy Steele. Man, Amy Steele is awesome.
She's awesome.
I met her last October. She was so sweet and gave me a hug. And yeah, Jamie Hart has seen every horror movie in the theater. That's the running joke here. That's why she added that. I feel like every time we bring up a movie here on the channel, Jamie's like, yeah, I saw that in the theater on a really bad date when I was in high school. So I wanted to ask you a couple quick, like this or that kind of would you rather ish sort of questions. Just, you know, as sort of our close out here before we move on to our musical guest. So my first this or that is, or maybe this is a would you rather. Would you rather play hide and go seek with Jason Voorhees or play Operation with Art the Clown?
Ooh, that's good. Ooh, I want to say hide and go seek. I love hide and go seek. That'd be fun.
Perfect.
That'd be fun in the woods and
in the woods, maybe, you know, dunk yourself in Crystal Lake and hope he doesn't find you.
I like that, yeah.
Now, how about your choice between two malls, Dawn of the Dead or Chopping Mall? Which mall are you picking to spend the weekend in?
If anybody knows me, they know I'm saying Chopping Mall.
That's what I figured. Yeah, I figured you'd say that one. And then let's see here. Which remake do you think is the better remake? So this is a this or that. Dawn of the Dead 04 or Friday the 13th 09?
That's good.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
That is very tough. Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead. Okay. And I'm one of those people, I really like that Friday the 13th remake. I know a lot of people are, you know, people poo-poo on the characters and I'm like, have you seen the other movies? Like there's like a few good characters, like decent people in these movies. Everyone else is just, you know. And let's see. I thought I had another one right on the tip of my tongue. Oh, is there, so this is totally off topic of would you rather or this or that. Is there a remake, a horror remake that you think outdoes the original, and which one is it?
Oh, The Crazies. The Crazies. I love the remake of The Crazies, but I feel like the original is really boring. Like it's so boring to me.
It is. It's
more of the military in the original than in the remake. I don't know. There's just a lot more going on in the remake.
Yeah, the remake feels a little bit more like a zombie movie, you know, like it has a little bit more of that 28 Days Later kind of vibe. Yeah, I agree that I enjoy, like, Romero's just one of my favorites, so I've got a soft spot for him. But I do think his Crazies is a bit more like procedural. It's very like, this is what's wrong with politics. Like, this is exactly what people in Washington would do to us. So it's that really dark side of Romero just not trusting the man at all. Yeah, that's a good answer. The Crazies. I need to revisit that one because, you know, Timothy Oliphant's just so hot.
I agree.
Isn't it funny that, like, you know, my wife and I, we just covered Scream 2. We have a show called Movie Date with Davey and Kate where we like discuss a film that we're both really familiar with. And I kind of got her into horror, but she loves all the Scream movies. And it's so funny that in Scream 2, Timothy Oliphant was not really hot stuff at a young age, you know? And he's even sort of like, there's something about like, here we go 20 years later, and now he's like sexiest man alive. Like, what is it about men that makes them just not attractive until they're in their 40s, Kristy?
I don't know, but there are a lot of men that just as they get older, they get even better looking. I don't know.
Is it the hair? Like when they start getting the gray in there and then it makes their eyes pop. I
like a little salt and pepper look.
Yeah, it's a classy look. And then also, you know, maybe there's something to say for maybe most women, of course, not every woman, but maybe some women or most of them are into somebody that looks like they could actually take care of you. Maybe that's a little bit of it too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hopping on here with us. I really appreciate you pushing through the technical difficulties. Of course, I was like, oh no, we can't lose out on having Kristy. We got to have her on the show. So thank you so much for your time today. I'm going to make sure that we get up to Vegas here, maybe when the weather cools down a little bit, because we're already in the heat here.
Yeah.
As I'm sure, I don't know, how hot is it there in Vegas right now?
Yeah, it was like 96 today.
Yeah.
So.
And Vegas gets that interesting sort of like you can taste the heat and the cigarette smoke everywhere when you step outside. You know what I'm talking about? Or are you totally used to that at this point?
I think I'm used to it now, but I do know what you're talking about. I get that.
Like you hop outside of the airport and you're like, oh, it tastes like the inside of a casino.
Yeah, well, there's almost a casino in the airport, pretty much.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a really fun town, and I do want to get there. My wife isn't too pumped on Vegas, but I'm the kind of guy where I'm like 36 to 48 hours. It's a really fun spot to go. You know,
you don't have to go to casinos. There's so much to do.
Yeah. Yeah, we went and actually we were working on the Wizard World Comic Con like right after we first met, and we went and saw the Evil Dead musical out there. It was a total blast. They dumped a bucket of blood all over me. It was amazing. I was like a pig in shit. It was a you know, very proud moment. But yeah, we definitely got to get up there and check out your shop and hang out and bug you for a little bit. And guys, please check out nightmaretoys.com. The links are in the description below. And of course, you can follow. I've got KRISTY's link tree in there as well. So you can follow her on her socials. And, you know, for you 18 plus folks out there, you know, KRISTY's got OnlyFans as well. So if you're into that kind of thing, that is an option. You know, a very, very sweet, pretty, lovely looking horror gal that could use all the support in every sort of way. One thing we always talk about on the channel here, KRISTY, is lifting each other up in the community and, you know, being there for not only fellow creators and creative people, but also being there for the audience as well. And just everybody, you know, having that communal kind of feel. So really appreciate you spending some time here with us and letting these folks get to know you a bit.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, have a great rest of your night, and we'll have to connect again somewhere down the line.
Yes. Bye. Have a spooky evening, y'all.
Thank you. Take care. All right, everyone. Heck yeah. Boom. Made it through the little bit of the technical difficulties. That's the fun part about the live show, folks. At some point, I just know that, you know, I'm going to not feel so well or come down with some sort of bug right before a show, and I'm just going to have to power through it for you guys. So really like seeing, you know, the guests hop on here and power through it as well. Raymond says you got to have her back, man. Absolutely. The one thing about the show too, is I want to make sure that, you know, we're respectful of everyone's time. And so, you know, maybe with some of these guests, if you really enjoyed their appearance here on the show, reach out to me through social media. You could even reach out to them as well and say, hey, I want to see more of you on the Davey Death Ray channel. And we could put together even like a long form interview or something like that. So we can give you guys, you know, a little more time with those guests, and we can kind of, you know, put together a little bit of an agenda, maybe something that they can share for you if they have like a new rollout or new, you know, fun creation to show off with you guys. I just wanted to share a couple other comments here before we move on to our musical guest. The Crazies remake is really good, but I've never seen the OG. Yeah, Raymond, you know, I would say if you really like the original Dawn of the Dead, the Crazies has that kind of feel and has that kind of look. But I do agree with KRISTY that, you know, relatively speaking, it's slow. You could certainly call it boring. I've only watched it a few times in my life. I've really enjoyed it, but again, I am such a sucker for Romero. So even when Romero's on a bit more of a political piece that's a little more on the nose, like the Crazies, I really enjoy it. Really great performances, I think, in that movie as well. Richard Liberty, who some of you guys might know as, you know, Dr. Frankenstein from Day of the Dead, or Dr. Logan, I guess they just call him Frankenstein in Day of the Dead. He puts in a really good, kind of mesmerizing, creepy performance in the Crazies. So really, really fun stuff. Tyler wants the guests to return as well. Do a vlog if you go. Yeah, I think that would be great, Tyler. What I'd like to do, yeah, if we, you know, not if, but when we end up going to Vegas for that, I would love to put together something for the whole trip. But of course, you know, get a hold of KRISTY ahead of time and maybe see if she's got some time that she could take with us to sort of, you know, do a tour of the store or something like that, or maybe even be cool to showcase the store. And then maybe if she's got some other hot spots that she likes to check out when she's in Vegas, and we can just sort of have a whole fun time with it. Absolutely. Gavin says, I forget to talk when you get in interview mode. Yeah. And guys, I wish, like, sometimes during the interview, I want to chime in on your chats. You'll see me share a couple of the chats. But also at the same time, it's just sort of like want to get in that mode and, you know, give the guest all the attention that I can as well, because they're spending their time here with us also. Tyler says, grab the jug of water and the Pepto-Bismol. The show must go on. Yeah, dude, if I have to sit on a bucket, then I'll do that. Okay. I'll do that, Tyler. So guys, I think we're ready to bring on, or at least showcase a music video from our musical guest, BRYAN MCPHERSON. Now, guys, BRYAN is a buddy of mine that I've known for years, going back to the days where I was playing music, and not only that, but you know, me and my buddies were helping set up shows for folks from out of town. So BRYAN at that time, I believe he was still out in the Boston area. He grew up in Dorchester. BRYAN, every time I try to do you right with that ridiculous accent that I throw out there. So I think he was still out on the East Coast at that time, and you know, moved out to LA for a bit, and now he is in Montana. And you know, BRYAN is a singer-songwriter, really powerful material. Not afraid to speak his mind, both in person and in his music. So, you know, pretty much whatever's rattling around in his head is what you're going to hear. I really, really love that kind of unfiltered, you know, at its heart, kind of a punk rock way of approaching music. You know, a guy and a guitar can be just as punk rock as a 5-piece band, you know, because it's about how you approach it, what you're singing about, and you know, the kind of message that you're putting out there. So before we bring BRYAN on, I'm going to show you guys his brand new video for One Human Being in the World. This just dropped, gosh, I think it was about a week and a half ago. And BRYAN's record, Immigrant and the Winner of Death, came out at the end of January. So this is his latest video, One Human Being in the World. Here we go.
I'm just one man walking along through the wilderness of wind and cold, through the landscapes of hungry wolves kicking rocks and rolling stones. I'm just one human being in the world. I'm just one human being in the world, where the oceans and rivers collide with a living, go to die forsaken, run and hide. The first time a baby cries, I'm just one human being in the world. I'm just one human being in the world. I don't want to burn it down, I just want to laugh out loud. I've had enough of plastic town, so I'm living on the outward bound in the mountains of broken glass with the spirits. The ilk roam past, the future becomes the past, and the sun just wants to make it last. And the moon stares down at us all with a longing of snowfall by the teardrops of waterfalls, by the train tracks of destiny's call. We are all for one and one for all. We are one human being in the world. We are one human being in the world. In the world. In the world. In the world. In the world.
I couldn't resist smiling and cutting off the little outtake here. All right, everyone, let's bring on BRYAN MCPHERSON. What's happening, man? How are you doing?
Hey, buddy. I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing all right. Just you know, doing the whole YouTube thing and working away at a job that I'm, you know, you just got to have a job apparently now. So
apparently you have to make money in this world.
Ah, it's terrible. Why does it cost money to live? Why?
God damn it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here, BRYAN. Guys in the chat, you know, BRYAN and I did a whole long form interview where, you know, we showcased little bits of every single song from his new record, Immigrant and the Winter of Death. And we just kind of chat about a little bit of everything. So, you know, at the end of this little segment here, if you're like, I need more BRYAN, check out that interview. And of course, check out his website in the link in the description below, where you can find tour dates, buy the album, all that great stuff. Welcome, BRYAN. How was your workout, man?
I was pretty good. I didn't go too crazy. So I had to tire myself out a little bit, you know. Otherwise, I have a hard time sleeping at night. So
yeah, I was gonna ask. So is that one of those things that you just find that you get better rest when you're staying active like that?
100%, yeah. And I always like to hit the sauna too, you know, kind of cleanse
Drain
out
you a bit.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hydrate, dehydrate, rehydrate, burn calories, consume calories, do the things, you know.
Yeah, we're just meat machines, right?
Apparently.
So
thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a pleasure. And you know, you're just about to hit the road here. Does it begin in July?
Yes, I'm heading out in July, and I will be touring across the United States from Montana to Boston with a bunch of shows in between there. And so I'm working on something now in Salt Lake City, but we got Oklahoma
Nice.
City, Wichita, St. Louis, Chicago, Peoria, Illinois, Salina, Ohio, Asbury Park, New Jersey, New Hampshire, Boston, Maine. And then I have to put some more work on to book the return route. So we got a bunch of stuff up in the air right now for that. So yeah, it'll be the first time I've done some tours in the last couple of years around the West, but I haven't done like a West to East stretch for like a month or two and since 2019. So I used to do that all the time until 2020. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, we should talk about that a little bit. I know we really got into it when you know, we did our long form interview, but you know, the pandemic just sort of, you know, I think it flipped a bunch of people's lives upside down. Certainly yourself being you know, an independent musician and somebody who, you know, plays music for a living, you know, it had a huge impact. You just want to talk a little bit about that for the folks here in the chat, just to kind of give them an idea of, you know, of how that all went for you. And then I know that, you know, now that the record's been out for a while, I think that it's been received pretty darn well. Of course, there are people out there that, you know, are probably never going to get it, but I think there are a lot of us that were ready for a record like this that spoke some hard truth. So yeah, just fill us in a little bit about that whole journey for you. And now turning a page over to something really hopeful and awesome with being able to head back to Boston on tour.
Yeah. Well, you know, where do I begin here? It's been a long, interesting couple of years. I have a very different life right now. But to kind of summarize, I was pretty much a full-time musician, singer-songwriter, traveling all around, doing the thing. And when 2020 happened, that all stopped. I started doing like a lot of live streams and stuff like that, keep my head above water. Anyways, I was back in Los Angeles, and to be quite frank, the mandates of medical treatments that were being implemented drove me out of
Mhm.
California, out of Boston, out of anywhere where I was going to be forced to do something that I did not think was good for my health. So
Mhm.
I kind of vote with my feet and my actions, and so I took off to Montana. I packed up all my stuff. It was not a happy, joyous time. It was a very 2021, the fall of 2021 was a pretty frightening, alarming time. If you were on my side of the fence and didn't agree with what was happening, you were ostracized, demonized,
Mhm.
everythingized, disenfranchised, kicked out, called a human rat, grandma killer, et cetera, et cetera. So I was like, society's just really, I'm not vibing with you guys right now.
Oh,
I'm going to go
yeah.
somewhere where there is legislation that I won't be fired from a job if I get a job. So I went somewhere where there was legal protection against that sort of thing. And over the last couple of years, obviously, I'm still alive. So I feel like I made a good decision there. And
Yeah.
not to beat a dead horse, because I, like everyone else, I'm trying to move on with my life. But I did write a bunch of songs in the turmoil of that winter, which is called the winter of death, because that's what the president kept telling me it was if I didn't comply. So
Mhm.
it very much was the winter of death. I packed up all my stuff into my Prius and I drove to Montana with no real place to live. And I wound up in Paradise Valley in basically a like summer rental that they rent out in the winter for pretty cheap. And I just moved into this town of like 80 people and stayed at this house. And the heartbreak that I endured in my relationships and the personal friendships dissolving and everything that just kind of just tore me apart, just all kind of, I just coughed it all up in these songs when I got to Montana. And then over the course of the next year or so, I ended up moving out of there to a different part of Montana. I went back to the same house and I recorded all these songs and produced them and, gave them my own, kind of production flair to it and whatnot. And was able to finally, produce this record and put it out a few months ago. So yeah, it came out in pieces in over the winter, and then the vinyl started shipping in January. So this will be
I
the
got
first.
mine
Nice.
right,
All
right
right.
there. I got mine framed. It hangs up on the wall right now, but I took it down so we could show it off. And Brian signed my copy. You guys,
Awesome.
you could still get the vinyl if you go to bryanmcpherson.com. It's the best way to hear music, and especially to hear something like really personal and intimate, like the way that Brian recorded this record. It sounds amazing on wax. So please go check that out. Yeah,
Thank you.
it is really odd. Like, I think we touched on this, in our interview earlier. Just I never thought that I always thought the people in the musical world or in the artistic world would be like, they just seem so accepting of most things. And then when everything went down with the pandemic, it just seemed like, well, here's the one thing we're not going to bend on at all. And we're going to totally side with the establishment. And it was like, what the hell just happened? Like, not I'm the only one, or not I'm the only one that's skeptical, but it feels that way, like,
Yeah, it
because
was very
everyone was
isolating.
just so on board.
Yeah, it was a pretty. I mean, I wanted to move initially to Texas because it was closer to Mexico. Because I was like, what if I have to leave the country? I'm not going to Canada
Yeah,
because it's crazier up there than down here. So I was like, oh,
yeah,
I'll go to
jeez.
Mexico. Man, so yeah, it was people get hysterical. People were whipped up into
Mhm.
a frenzy by the media and the government with an agenda. And, that's how a lot of horrible things happen. And a lot of people were hurt.
Yeah.
For me personally, I was like, I remember saying like on the internet, like to like my social media people, I'm like, I support your right to do whatever you want. And they'd be like, how could you? You're a and I'm like, I just said, like, you can make your own decision, but we know that you mean you want to. And I'm just, I'm like, you know what? There's
Yeah.
no talking to anybody right now. I have a heart condition and, I have like multiple friends have like heart issues after getting injected, and I'm like,
Yeah. Well, and
myocarditis
now
and on and on and on. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'll take my fucking chances, bro. You know?
yeah. Well, and in the last couple weeks, they've gotten a lot more candid about, what they were really finding versus what they
Yeah.
were saying. There's been it doesn't seem like anyone's going to ever be held responsible,
No, of course
unfortunately,
not.
for blowing that horn, basically yelling fire in a crowded theater and just watching people trample one another. It's pretty wild. I think sometimes people forget that it's like, people usually like to think, well, only like this one side of the government is going to ever weaponize like their beliefs. And it's like, nah, I think they're all capable. Like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
all capable. And we always have to keep our eyes open, because even if somebody is like in a party that you like or whatever, it doesn't mean that they're infallible. I think it's, just like everyone else, like we all make mistakes. And yeah, people, gosh, going back to Romero, which I know you and I are both big Romero fans, something like The Crazies, that, like you watch a movie like that and you see it's literally about an airborne virus that makes people go crazy. And it's the paranoia of like, who can you trust? And like, how do we find a cure, and how do we find the truth? And then boom, like, I feel like the pandemic is something that George must be looking down from heaven being like, I told you, smoking a cigarette and drinking 2 cups of coffee at once.
Yeah, I mean, like, Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite movies and was as a child, and it's always, to look at it psychologically, you kind of look at the layers of the masses kind of attacking the individual and being on the run from, large groups of people who are all kind of in a daze and trying to eat you alive, and you're kind of like, oh, what do I do? And you try to find like, some people who are somewhat like-minded, I guess, but I've always been fascinated by that. And it was kind of one of those experiences where, growing up as a child, it was hard to understand the atrocities of history, because I didn't really have anything, in the 80s and 90s, like, it wasn't very hysterical or authoritarian necessarily here in the States. And over the last 10 years or so, things have gotten to a point where I'm like, oh yeah, like I can see how all of a sudden they just want to put everyone into a camp and kill them. I'm like, I can really see how those things start. And just kind of the hatred and the, scapegoating and just vitriol that I witnessed just by saying, like, I believe in your right to make your own decision about your own body, and then, so I mean, I'm kind of a principled person. Like, I believe in your freedom to make your decisions, not just when it's like convenient to like what I think necessarily. I mean, I just kind of use logic. And anyways,
I was just going to say, they're really sneaky about how they do it, right? So it always seems like it's coming from a good place at first, and then before you know it, if you use, these sorts of words, people are just going to automatically assume you mean this one thing, or they're just going to make up words like misinformation for something that if they don't agree with it, they just call it misinformation. And then everyone gets like very quickly sort of brainwashed into thinking, oh yeah, that's misinformation.
That's information.
Just because
they're just like,
just because you don't agree. It's like,
just starts parroting these catchphrases, and you're just kind of like,
oh yeah,
you're a punk rocker? What? What?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and now, in the spirit of kind of like, turning that page and going into this new chapter, it's got to be awesome seeing, the support that you have gotten for the record and for, your songs that you've been putting out. And now, hitting the road again, it seems like stuff is kind of, getting back to a little bit more of a normal for you. So, how pumped are you to hit the road here?
I am, I'm kind of pumped. I don't know. It's a big change. I used to do it all the time, but you get a lot riding on it, a lot of like things can go wrong. So I'm still trying to book it. I'm excited to get back out there. Like, I really like to explore the United States, and I've been able to do that for extended periods of time. And I've learned a lot about different people and cultures here in this country, and
Mhm.
you know, everyone's in their little bubbles, you know, like I remember I grew up in Boston and they're like, you know, everyone down south is an idiot. And you're like, what? What are you talking about? You know, like it's just like everyone's like at these camps, you know, and
Mhm.
half the time they haven't even been anywhere, you know, and I'm like, you know,
Sure.
maybe you should go down south before you just judge, you know, millions of people who live there, you know, you just like,
Yeah.
so, and I even like in my travel back in the day, the first time I was in Phoenix, and they're like, "Oh, Tucson sucks," and then I go to Tucson, they're like, "Oh, Phoenix sucks," and I'm like, "You guys are neighbors, like you're all
Yeah.
Arizona to the rest of the country." It's like funny, man, people. But
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting back out there, and you know, hopefully playing some shows, and people come out and hear some songs, and it goes well. So um, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think as you know, as you experience like the different cultures and subcultures within the country, it's like you realize, you know, that we have so much more in common most of the time. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those things like we're told that we don't really, you know, wouldn't get along with our neighbor, but most of the time, like you really would, you know. So it's like you're saying, once you actually go out there and experience it, you're like, oh yeah, there's plenty of good to take from here, and you know, every place has its good and its bad, right? It's
Yeah.
like, you know, I love going to Tucson. Like I would live there if it worked out. Like it would be a fun place to live because it's vibrant, you know, a young group of people out there with the school being so massive. And then there's certain stuff about Phoenix that I really like. It's a convenient place to live if you want to go to a bunch of shows, and you know, there are conveniences of living in a big city, even though it's not maybe ideal, but yeah, it's one of those things where again it's about finding more of that common ground, and you know, and really the only way to do that is to have that conversation, you know, be more open with people, and I feel like we're kind of finally at that point where everyone's ready to just sort of, you know, push away the last 5 years or so, last 4 years, and just kind
Yeah.
of get on with
Yeah,
it.
seriously. That's why for the latest video I did that song because it's a little more it's a more positive song when the other songs on the record are kind of like just not they're very like tortured artisty type songs. And that song, you know, it on the surface, like you can listen to that song or watch the video and like, okay, well, there's one guy walking around. Oh, but it's like a lot of a thought kind of went into the video, and you know the song starts out it's like I'm just one man walking alone through the wilderness of wind and cold, and there's like that isolated, and I was in Yellowstone and shot the bison there with the footage, and like the
Yeah.
bison is me like alone, and like and then as the video like progresses you kind of go back into society, and like you know it turned up the saturation on the video, more brighter
Hmm.
colors, and then kind of ends with like we are one, you know, we're all like one human being in the world, you know, and
Yeah.
has more of like a positive message, and kind of like wanting to like kind of reconnect, because you know a lot of people who had the opposing viewpoint as me, they didn't they don't even know like what people who didn't comply went through. Like we went through hell. We lost jobs, families, friends.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, we all moved to like we
Yeah.
fled, you know, and like we had
Yeah.
to like rebuild our lives. And if you didn't have to do that, it was you kind of like in the backdrop, like, who are these people? Why don't they just do it? You know, like what's their
Yeah.
problem? You know, like we're real people. Like we really had our fucking lives like ripped apart, you know? And it's
Yeah.
like maybe like maybe be like, "Hey, sorry about that," at some point, but you know, we're not holding our breath, but you know, it was a time, and it took a lot for me to even make this record and put it out. Like I wasn't even going to put it out. I'm like, this is just a therapy record, you know. I'm just make this record, and that'll be that. I'll move on with my life. But you know, I really came down to like, what the hell do I write songs for in the first place if I'm going to make a friggin' record and not put it
Yeah.
out, like because I'm afraid?
Yeah.
Sorry, you
Yeah.
know, like so I just had to put it out, and you know, here I am with, you know, kind of seeing how people will be out there in the world when I go out there and you know, leave Montana for a while and sing some songs in some strange places. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I think I don't know why. I just have a feeling, just based on, you know, the way I've seen people react to it, especially I feel like people you know, a pretty good reception, and definitely like people, of course there are the detractors in a couple comments here or there, but more people like going to bat for you,
Yeah.
you know, and sharing everything. And I think like, you know, it's one of those things, guys, for everyone in the chat, you know, Bryan has always spoken his mind in his songs. He's never shied away from anything. So, you know, for me, it was just, oh, this is just Bryan, you know, singing about another part of his life. Whereas, you know, you'll sing about uncomfortable things in your previous songs. You know, you sing about injustices that have happened to people, and, you know, like real shit. So, to me, I wasn't very shocked, I guess. I was like, well, this makes total sense,
Yeah.
you know?
I
So I
was at the
think that,
forefront of like a lot of these left-wing causes that I was singing
yeah.
about 10 years ago, you know, before it was fucking popular. You know, I got a lot of shit for it too. And then these same people flip on me, you know, and it's
Mm,
like, I'm just singing about freedom, motherfucker. Freedom, freedom,
yeah.
yours and
Yeah. Like,
mine. Not just like
yeah.
yours and what you think I should do. No, man.
Sure.
It goes both ways, you know?
Yeah, and
So
it's like more or less you've sort of stayed, you know, centered, and it's like stuff is, you know, changed around you as far as all that goes, you know. So so yeah, it is awesome to see that support out there. I do see there's a question here from Raymond Malaber. He asks, is there someone you would like to work with someday? I would guess either a producer or maybe even another musician if you wanted to team up on something.
jeez, I didn't even, I don't know. Probably, I would imagine. Yeah, like, Bob Dylan maybe. Who would I like to work with? Like, I've always loved, the Rick Rubin's records that he makes, the producer. I
Yeah.
got to make a record before this. I got to make a record with Ted Hutt, who's produced a lot of really awesome records. He's won like Grammys and shit, and that was kind of like, someone I really wanted to work with, and that came true. But yeah, probably like Rick Rubin as far as like a producer. I mean, I really love those Johnny Cash records that he made
Mhm.
later in his career. And that's kind of, I took inspiration from that with Emigrant, which is like, I'm not going to a studio. I'm bringing a microphone to the me, you know, and the
Mhm.
mountain on the cover of the record is the mountain I looked at every day. It was like right out the window. So that's like why, you know, and that's called Emigrant Peak in this town called Emigrant. So yeah, like Rick Rubin, you know, if you why might as well shoot for the stars, right? So
Rick, if you're listening, if you're in the chat, let us know.
yeah, hit
Yeah,
me up,
Rick
Rick.
is he's really interesting because he, you know, he really does become another member of the band or just another part of the artistry, because I feel like, I mean, gosh, like we're all the Def Jam stuff he did, going to, you know, Tom Petty, Dixie Chicks, Red Hot Chili
Oh yeah.
Peppers, Johnny Cash, and like so much more that I'm missing out on, because he can just seamlessly go from artist to artist. And to me, I think like the records that he does with these artists are end up being standout albums in giant catalogs. It's almost like you can tell when Rick Rubin worked with them, because there really
Yeah.
is something special about what he brings. You know, I mean, even I'm not the hugest like Red Hot Chili Peppers guy. Like my, you know, my wife absolutely loves them. But man, when I listen to the records that he did, like when you listen to Blood Sugar Sex Magic, like it blows your friggin' ears off. It sounds
Yeah.
amazing, you know?
And
And he
people will
really
like
brings out something
criticize.
personal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what, you know, not to cut you off there, but he does bring, that's kind of what that dude does. He just brings out he brings it out of the people, you know, he's all about like
Mhm.
the vibe. And like I've talked about some of the engineers would be like, oh, that record, you know, the vocal mic clips and this happens and this happens. I'm like, because that's just, those are tools. And this is a human being. Like,
Yeah,
break the gear. You know what? The gear is there to capture the soul. And if the gear can't
yeah,
handle it, you know, like that's like the, you know, get the performance, you know. And I think that's
yeah.
kind of what that dude has brought out of a lot of people is getting the performance. So that's a good question. I appreciate that. What town is
And there
that?
you go. Yeah, Gavin, what town is that there? He said they just filmed that Bob Dylan
Oh,
movie in my
okay.
town.
Cool.
But
I'd
yeah,
like
you
to work
know,
with Steve Raimi. That's who I like. The guy who made Evil Dead. He should make one of my music videos.
oh yeah. Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi.
That would be amazing. He might cost quite a bit because he's got that Marvel money now.
Yeah.
But
You're
you could,
listening,
I'm
Sam.
sure, yeah. Sam Raimi and Rick Rubin. It's not like you're asking for the world, Brian. It's really simple. Bob Dylan, Rick Rubin, Sam Raimi.
If George Romero could rise from the dead and make a new zombie movie with me
Yeah.
doing the soundtrack, that'd be killer.
So that's the next music videos you should do, like a zombie. You should do an homage to Dawn of the Dead.
That would be awesome. I would totally love to do that. Let's
If
do the
you shoot it the
Kickstarter
right
campaign.
way, you don't even need that many people. You can make it look like it's a whole bunch of zombies, right? You just got to shoot it the right way.
Yeah.
Gavin says Cape May, New Jersey is where they shot that.
Cool. I was there
And
once.
yes, and in Cape May.
Yeah.
And Antonis, yes, Red Hot Chili Peppers is a band. It is a food too. Easy get, says Tyler about Sam Raimi, Rick Rubin, and Bob Dylan. Yeah, you know, I was listening to your record today to just sort of get in the mood, you know, before the interview here, and there's this one lyric just sort of like stood out to me. I think in our last interview I tried to like quote something and completely botched it, so I wrote it down this time. It's on Circle Road. I really love this lyric here. That's I don't belong here. I hold no place in your army of hate. And it's like when I read it, it goes by so quickly, but you've got this really great way of kind of stretching it out. And to me, it kind of stood out because, you know, it feels like we're sort of, you know, that whole like army of hate thing. It's like everyone's capable, like each group is capable of having this sort of like weird kind of, you know, mentality. And also just like, even you know, there's a breath between like the I don't belong here and I hold no place. So it almost like stands alone and hangs there for a second.
Oh, cool.
Now, what's that?
I said, oh, cool. I never noticed that, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I feel like it's sort of, there's a little bit of suspension there. And, you know, it's just one of those lyrics that I adore that song because it just kind of talks about how, you know, every group has sort of been through this whole victim and, you know, and villain kind of role throughout history. But yeah, it is just something that I wanted to mention here. And again, kind of brings, you know, reminds me a little bit of that whole kind of Romero sort of way of thinking. Now to kind of shift it over from like that whole, you know, Romero kind of mentality as well. Have you recently seen any movies or anything that kind of give you that same sort of feeling? Or is there anything that like, you know, even like a musical artist that like you feel like kind of akin to, or in any sort of way like that?
I'm pretty out of touch as far as like modern music or even films go. I'm not really like a big fan of current Hollywood. I mean, anything recently that I mean, when I think of like modern horror movies, like I think of, oh, what the hell is that movie? Hereditary. That's probably something I'm not talking about like I feel like a bond with or anything. I'm just talking like recent great horror, or like It Follows. I really like that movie.
That's got that
Ring.
like kind of Carpenter, like that Carpenter score and like the long tracking shots on It
Yeah.
Follows.
I feel like what's that TV show everyone's been watching, Stranger Things? I feel like Stranger Things just saw It Follows and they were like, we're just ripping off this whole vibe and we're gonna make a show
Yeah.
about it. That's what they do out there, you know? And then like this It Follows came out and it was like timeless, but 80s, but what like synth, but maybe the future, but it didn't really have, it was like really well crafted, and I remember seeing it like reading. I'm like, it's probably goofy. Like, the premise of like the STD that is like some spiritual entity that follows people until you give it to the next. I'm like, it seems kind of goofy. But then I saw that movie and I was like, holy shit, this is a good, really well made film. And it really
Mhm.
had me freaked out by the end of it. Like there was some really spooky, creepy things that happened. I really loved that, and I loved like you mentioned, the Carpenter-esque aesthetic with the music and the whole fall, and yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was great. And Hereditary just damaged me. Like I don't even recommend that movie. I'm like, that's the best horror movie I've ever seen that I would just suggest nobody sees because it just crosses a lot of lines. And but upon further analysis, like, I've been down the rabbit hole of analyzing that movie, and it's absolutely brilliant, everything that kinda plays in and the layers going on there. This is just
Yeah. Well, sometimes like a really good horror movie or something unsettling, it's like you see it once and that's all you need.
yeah.
It's like there's certain movies like I saw Requiem for a Dream once, like,
Yeah,
it's not horror, but I didn't want to go back to that. Like
basically is, yeah.
it's not pleasant, very
Yeah,
well made, but oh my God, it's like Darren Aronofsky movies. Once is enough.
I
And
love
then
that movie. So good,
have you
yeah.
seen did you see The Witch? Have you seen that one?
I have seen The Witch. I wasn't crazy about it. I thought it was I probably need to revisit it again.
You know what
You
I did? The key, I think, for me is when I watch David or Robert Eggers movies, is I put subtitles on. Because like no
okay.
matter what movie it is of his, like I can't understand anyone. It's like I watched that Lighthouse movie with Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is like their accents are friggin' crazy. And I was like,
yeah,
all right, subtitles, here we go.
yeah. Subtitles are the way to go. Get you a little
But yeah,
more
there
immersed.
exactly. Yeah, and there is that whole sort of like, everyone calls it elevated horror. I don't know. To me, I feel like there have always been horror movies kind of like that, but now it's sort of there's like a movement. It's sort of like, there's a trend of these movies that just kind of operate on a little bit of a different level. Like have you seen Late Night with the Devil? Where
No,
I
but I
got the
heard you
name
guys
for the
talking
show.
about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of those. I really enjoyed it, and of course, the overhype can kill anything, but I really loved it. I thought
I'll
it
have to
was a
check it
cool
out.
kind of different sort of movie,
Nice.
kind of puts you there a little bit. They switch back from like 3:4 aspect ratio because it's like you're watching like a 70s talk show. And then when
Yeah.
they go to commercial break, it goes to like a black and white widescreen. And you see like all the behind the scenes, like conversations that go on and like the real moments. And then they cut back to like, all right, we're back to the talk show, so
Sounds
it's really
interesting.
kind of it's immersive, and good performances from actors that aren't like massive. So that for me is always like a big thing too, to just like let me sort of, let go and just, invest myself in the film. Um,
Mm,
I recommend that one. I think you just might dig it. It is
yeah,
a bit out there, but in a fun kind of way. Um,
cool.
so
I'll have to
now
track it
when
down.
you're on the yeah, when you're on the road, are you gonna be like, all right, now that I'm out there, maybe on a day off, I'll go enjoy some AC and watch a movie in the theater? Anything like that? What do you do with your days off on tour?
In the past, on my days off, I mostly rest, because it's like, I do, like, all the driving and, a lot
Mhm.
of driving, and then so you kinda, like, drive all day, you play the gig or whatever, then you kinda, like, sleep in your car or a motel or something, and, so when you do get a day off, you're kinda like, "Whoa, just maybe I'll go to a movie, kinda go for a
Yeah.
hike or something, hit a pond." I don't know. Like, I like to go camping in the summer, like, if I'm
Mhm.
traveling and have a few days off, I'll kinda go camping somewhere and just, like, chill, so that's I'm kinda, like, looking forward to just kinda, like, decompressing a little bit from the this life that I've been living over the last couple of years here and kind of
Mhm.
getting back to, like, my passions and what I really care about,
Yeah.
as far as my creativity and performing, and, I have, like, some other ideas about some stuff that I'd like to write kinda a little outside of the I mean, my last record was very serious, so I'm kinda going to, like, a non-serious mode, maybe
Nice.
a lighter time, so we'll see what happens out there, in the past, like, yeah, I would definitely like pop into a movie theater or something. The hell do I do? Honestly, dude, like my favorite thing to do on like a day off is rent like a motel in the middle of nowhere and just be like, go experience some like little town that I never
Yeah.
heard of, at some
Yeah.
roadside place and just kind of soak it in, and just kind of catch the vibes. And I don't really do a lot of like writing traditionally, or I usually do that when I'm after the travels, then songs will
Mhm.
pop up. So I don't really have a lot of expectations, I would say. So we'll kind of see what happens.
Hell yeah. And you're gonna go back to Montana. Do you see yourself in Montana for, the next little bit, or do you think you're gonna, hop on to a new place and get going, just, experience a whole different kind of atmosphere?
I don't really know, man. Um, I'm kind of like doing some soul searching right now and seeing like what I want to do moving forward. I grew up and Montana's been good to me. I've had a
Mhm.
good run here, and um, in like my darkest hour, like this place just like opened up to me, and I was able to like land on my feet, like,
Mhm.
and get an apartment, and like I gotta and get a car, and like pay bills, and like you know I
Yeah.
I was literally like, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. Like when you throw all your stuff into a Prius and you drive to Montana, you're kind of like you're letting like, okay, universe, what will unfold? So,
Yeah.
however,
Talk
all
about a
that
leap
being,
of faith.
yeah, you had to really dive into the faith piece there, and that's why I maintain like a contact with a spiritual practice and a higher power. But I have the itch, like to explore, and winter is long here. It is a long,
Yeah.
long winter. Like it's gonna snow tonight up in the mountains here, so which is I'm already in the mountains, so
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Whoa.
It's like,
It's like 100 degrees here in Phoenix.
yeah, it snowed a couple weeks ago, and I was just like, oh, like I can't.
Wow. Yeah, that's hardcore.
I heard you guys talking about the weather in Vegas and Phoenix, and I'm just like, oh yeah, 96. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
Or
sign
hey,
me
you
up.
brought it up earlier. Maybe Tucson's a good spot for you because they're usually a bit colder, even in like the hottest part of the year. They're usually
Yeah,
about 10 degrees cooler. And they do have a really nice, there's Mount Lemon up there, which Kate and I went up for a couple of friends of ours got married, and we drove up there, and it was like by the time you get to the spot where they had their wedding, it's like there's all sorts of like aspen trees, and it's like you could be anywhere. It doesn't even feel like you're
yeah,
in the desert. As you go up the mountain, you see all these different ecosystems, and it's just kind of blew my mind of like, wow, this is in the middle of the desert, like
that's
this
pretty
mountain
cool.
oasis, you know?
I didn't even know about that mountain. I need to check that out. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's a heck of a drive. It wasn't a scary drive, but it was like, wow, this is like never ending going up here. Pretty incredible. And man, Tucson's got killer record stores. They do have a fun little music scene out there. And yeah, maybe think about it.
Yeah, the first
Or when you
time. Go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say when you come back around on tour, maybe you swing through there, although it's gonna be like extra brutally hot in Arizona when you
Yeah,
come back.
I've been there in the summer, and it's pretty gnarly. I
Yeah.
actually the first time I toured through Phoenix like 10 years ago or something like that. It was like 115 or something at night or something absurd, and I was like sleeping in my van. So I'm like, I
Ugh.
can't do
Yeah.
this. And I looked at the
No.
weather in Tucson, and it was like 95, and I'm like, going to Tucson. So I packed it up and
Yeah.
drove to Tucson and slept, went down to like 90 or something. And I was like, oh, I can actually sleep in this. But yeah,
Yeah. It doesn't let up here once it gets going.
I love like when
Unfortunately.
there's nothing more beautiful than the end of a crazy hot day like that in the Southwest and then at like dusk when it starts to cool down, and like there's this whole vibe and the colors and everything. I really love that time of day
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's beautiful in a totally different way than like what I was used to growing up. And it definitely, made me realize like, every place has its own kind of beauty, and
Yeah.
like the good things about it and bad things, good times a year, bad times a year. Like I miss the rain sometimes, we don't
I
get
bet.
that much of it here. And
Yeah.
sometimes I like a gloomy day. I don't know what it is, but then
Yeah.
there are other people. The reason why they come here is because they never want to see a gloomy day ever. And I'm like, don't you just want to put on a movie and snuggle in a blanket and just have, an excuse to be that way?
Yeah,
But
that's what
maybe
happened
that's
when I
just
lived
me.
in LA. I was like, God, it's just too damn nice out all the time. I need some rainy day. Just like 10 months of summer. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just like never happy, you know. It's always something.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for spending some time here with us, Brian. I think we've been chatting for a little bit, and oh
Cool.
my gosh, yeah, we are at 2 hours on the show. That is like right around the time we usually wrap things up. So, really pumped we were able to show off your brand new music video. Guys, please check out Brian's website in the link in the description below. You can find tour dates, merch, all that kind of great stuff. And of course, check out those tour dates and see if he's coming somewhere near you, because you're kind of going all the way across the country there in the northern part and then back. So we'll see what that trail is like leading you back to Montana. But yeah, what we should do is next time you've got something new to show off, we'll have you back on the show and
Awesome.
share that with everyone once again. And yeah, man, really appreciate you jumping on and sharing some of your thoughts. And yeah, guys, go get a copy on vinyl. If you don't listen to vinyl, what the heck are you doing? And if you don't listen to Bryan McPherson, extra, what the heck are you doing? Got a whole bunch of great stuff out there. And we're going to put in a good word for you, Brian, to Rick Rubin, Sam Raimi, and Bob Dylan. We'll get you at least 2 of the 3. Like Meatloaf said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So we'll get that going for you, man.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks everyone who stuck around and listened. And thanks for the
Hell yeah,
questions
man.
to everybody. Thanks, Davey.
Of
Appreciate you,
course.
man. All right.
Absolutely, Brian. Take care, man. Have a great rest of your night.
You too.
Oh my gosh, I kind of cut him off there. I'm so sorry, Brian. I hope you can hear me still. Oh, there he is. He's okay. He's okay. All right. Didn't mean to do that. And whoa, there we go. Back to the quote unquote full screen. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. I know we got a handful of you guys stuck around for the whole entire show through the blips and the bleeps and the blops and the blopes. Just wanted to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Yeah, links for every one of our awesome guests are in the description below. And you can even check out some of the links that we've got there for, the Patreon that I mentioned earlier. And of course, our Teespring shop, or I guess they just call it Spring. So our merch shop, you can grab some gear there. If you want to get, I'm going to have to get that little black mug. I love that mug so much. So yeah, guys, if you end up grabbing something from the merch shop, just what I want to do is make sure that you guys are getting good stuff there. So please, shoot me a picture. Let me know what the quality's like. Want to make sure that it's the good way to go, and see if we need to go another route if it's not the kind of quality that we want for you guys. So thank you all so much. We got some really fun stuff coming up here for the channel later on this week. I'm putting together my Scream franchise ranking. I'm really excited about that one. You guys were amazing during the Scream 2 stream over on Movie Date with Davey and Kate. So putting together that franchise ranking for Scream. On Friday, I will be on an episode of my first horror movie over at Sledgehammer Horror. So keep an eye out for that. I'd imagine you guys know who they are, but please, if you haven't subbed already to Sledgehammer Horror, go ahead and give them a sub. They are blowing up right now on YouTube. Really excited to, have that episode come out and have you guys, hear the story of my first horror movie. Coming out next week, I was on Real Talk with Brett and Brad from Good Real Hunting. That was a really fun interview that we did on Sunday, and that'll be coming out, I think, Monday or Tuesday. So keep an eye out for that. Go check out Good Real Hunting and give them a sub if you don't already sub over there right now. And yeah, guys, you know, I had mentioned it, Terrifier and Terrifier 2. Those reviews are coming your way as well. I'm sitting down to watch one of those movies tonight. Well, I'm going to watch the very first Terrifier tonight. So please think about me, say some prayers for me, because Art the Clown freaks the living shit out of me. And I don't know. I don't scare easy. I'm just like, I don't know what to think. So hopefully it's a great experience and I come out of it a more well-rounded horror fan. And, you know, hopefully like after I see these first two, I'll be just as pumped for Terrifier 3 as I know so many of you guys are out there. Just want to pop into the chat really quick before we say our official goodbyes. Let's see here. Got a doctor's appointment tomorrow. Just stopping into Goodwill to maybe pick up some Blu-rays. Heck yeah, Raymond. Let us know what you get. Let us know the next time we hop into a stream. I want to know what Blu-rays you got. Thank you for the hang as well, Gavin. Really appreciate you coming in and chilling with us. Physical releases are coming to Antonis on Friday. Hell yeah, Antonis. What are you picking up? Let me know. I'm interested to know. Late night with the Davey. Every time. Yep. Oh yeah. I got to get a theme song. Tyler, we'll work on something. Yeah, well, you know, the thing is about that, Antonis, is like, I don't know. I try to separate myself from all that kind of stuff. I know sometimes it can be difficult, but it's like I talked about with Anthony today, and even with Brian, you know, it's like the commonalities that we have. That's kind of what stands out to me at this stage in my life. You know, maybe in my younger years, I probably felt a little bit differently. But just as I've gotten older, I'm sort of like, well, you know, not everybody that I'm friendly with and not everyone that I'm friends with do I require that they feel the same way about me. You know, as long as they're not, you know, trying to like push their beliefs, right? It's kind of like religion where it's like, you know, when you get to that sort of pushy area, it could just get a little dicey. I really love the way that they approach their channel. I think it's really inspiring to see how many people, you know, they have not only following them, but the people they include on their show. I mean, they've got like 500 episodes of My First Horror Movie, something crazy like that. So it's really amazing to see that kind of connection that they've made. That's what I'm trying to do here on YouTube is, you know, connect with as many people as possible and, you know, connect despite our differences. Right. And, you know, hopefully we never have to talk about things with people in a way that it ends up getting ugly. I still think we can disagree about, you know, some things in our life and still realize that, you know, the relationships we have with those people that we may disagree with, they still have value. Right. So yeah, and I didn't even know that. I guess it didn't occur to me. Every time I talk to Ken, we're talking about like punk rock because we grew up listening to the same bands and all that stuff. So yeah, you know, never even occurred to me. You know, but hey, I lived in Portland for like 12 years, so I certainly understand that kind of situation can get uncomfortable for sure. Raymond says, great stream, man. See everybody next time. Tyler Adams says the Prowler was good. Oh yeah, Tyler, I'm so pumped that you like the Prowler. I love that friggin' movie. I am so excited. I almost said pumped like twice in 10 seconds. I'm so excited to jump on Matt Facci's channel later on this summer. We're doing June 14th, on Saturday, June 14th, we are going to watch The Prowler together and do a little bit of a watch along commentary on his channel. So I'm really excited for that. All right. Excellent. Good luck with your pal Art. Thank you, Gavin. Really appreciate that, bud. Hell yeah, man. Really appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you, Eli. Love seeing you back again, man. So thankful that you gave us a chance and that you keep on coming back. And, you know, yeah, I think like what Raymond says, I don't let politics decide who I like or don't. Yeah, I think that's, and, you know, Antonis, you're right along with us. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, man, I'm not going to try to make you feel uncomfortable with the things I believe in. And if you don't do that, then we can be really good buds, right? And we can talk about the things that we do agree on and we can celebrate those commonalities and we can, you know, kind of in a way that sticks the middle finger to the establishment and to the media and to, you know, the people that really have the ultimate power, like in our lives, these, you know, elected officials, regardless of what party they're in, it's kind of nice to say, hey, you know what? I think that no matter what, even if my neighbor votes a different way than me, I think we get along better than you would ever give us credit for. And I think that's a really powerful thing that we can do. And, you know, just it can be difficult sometimes, but I do think it can be really powerful and liberating, actually, to not like try to hold that weight. But okay. I've talked, I've been on the soapbox for long enough. Yeah, Raymond, Tom Savini did those effects. Joseph Zito directed that film. He did a great job on the final chapter as well in the Friday the 13th series. I love The Prowler so much. My favorite one-off slasher. Easy, maybe April Fool's Day will take over if I feel a certain way about that. But with Nightmare KRISTY saying that that is her go-to favorite horror movie, I'm going to have to give it a watch. Thank you so much again to all of our great guests. Anthony Brownlee, go check out his books over there on Amazon. Nightmare KRISTY, you can check her out on socials. I've got her link tree and the links in the description below. And of course, you can check out nightmaretoys.com. And of course, check out BRYANMCPHERSON.com, where you can purchase Brian's music. He has a whole bunch of music out there that you can purchase. You know, the vinyl record is absolutely gorgeous. I highly recommend you guys pick that up. And yeah, I'll be back on Friday with Sledgehammer Horror, and then you'll see me this weekend with the Scream franchise ranking. And of course, I'll be here on Sunday to say what's up and do a little weekend roundup. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. I love you guys so much. Really appreciate you hanging out with us and being such amazing supporters of the channel. We're well on our way to 700, and we're still trying to reach that 1,000 sub mark by August. So please leave a like on the video, share the video and the channel with somebody that you know that you think would like this kind of material. And until next time, I've been and will continue being Davey Deathray. Take care.